We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids. When it came to me after so long, I didn't have no choices in the streets where I was from. When I think about the pain, I didn't have no choices. I took what I had sworn. Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids.
Good evening, welcome to nufc Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Geordies here, Geordies there tonight, joined by George, Kevin, Al-Walid, Mitch and Stu. Steve Hasty working tonight, so unfortunately can't join us. And best wishes to Steve Wilkinson, who is continuing his recovery. Good evening, lads. Just going to start with AC Milan. We know that George and Kevin were on the fans forum last night, so we've heard a little bit from them. But we've heard at his press conference today. Didn't give much away, George. Anthony Gordon didn't train. Martin Dubravka didn't train. Sean Longstaff didn't train. 3 players who, the media are now casting doubts on availability. Karius all set for potentially a starting goal tomorrow. His first game since the Carabao Cup final. If he does, but picking Eddie's press conference apart, I haven't had much time to do it, but he doesn't give much away, the lad, and obviously he also, he's got to measure these people's fitness. He's got to manage the fitness. So just because they didn't train today, they only played a game a couple of days ago, it doesn't mean that they're not available. So AC Milan come into town as well. They've got a few injury problems. I think they've only got one available centre half. So you could say we're probably evenly matched. Dan Burn is set to return potentially onto the bench to join Callum Wilson, who is raring to go. He said in the press conference today. So ups and downs, a few more back in, and obviously we still have that issue of the squad, of course, which means that those players that are fit are unavailable, such as Matt Ritchie and Emil Kraft. Alongside Gillespie and Manquillo. If Dubravka is unfit, of course, it means that Karius will be potentially the only goalkeeper. I can't imagine who else they're going to have on the bench as a goalkeeper. Maybe it's a time for a Peter Beardsley stroke Chris Edworth moment, or a Vinnie Jones moment going into goal at St James's Park. But yeah, look, it's exciting. The main thing is, George, we've got to this stage of the competition, and we're going into the last group game, and it's all to play for.
All to play for, indeed. And I've got to say to you that Karius would have been in goal for me anyway, irrespective of who's fit and who's not fit. He would have got a start for me. The other things, it's good to hear that people like Dan Burn and so on are getting near to fitness. But whatever 11 he picks, they've just got to do what they've been doing all season and last season. Do their best. Do what Newcastle United do, and that'll be with the crowd. That'll be enough to frighten Milan to into something silly, because they're not great shakes at the moment either. Give it a go. Whoever he puts on the pitch, and you're not taking the talking predictions now, are you? Are you doing that later?
No, I mean, give us your prediction. We had it last night, so most people watch both.
2-1 to Newcastle last night. That's what I said, and I still stick by that. I've seen and read nothing that'll change my mind about that. I've seen and read nothing that won't persuade me that a full house tomorrow night in a cold January night will not put Milan off, because I think it will. And whoever he picks, whichever team goes out, they've just got to do what they've been doing. We've took chances. I'd like to see him take chances with this one as well. I mean, who would have thought that team he set out to Manchester United would go home with a 3-0 victory? I didn't. But be brave. We've got to be brave. If we get through this, we've got potentially 2 games to play, more or less. If we go into the Europa League and Cup, we've got lots of games to play. So there's lots of reasons why we want to get through, and that's one of them for me. So 2-1 to Newcastle without a shadow of a doubt, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Kevin, good evening, mate. Good to see you. Yeah, the press conference didn't give much away, did it?
Haven't seen it, to be honest. I've heard little snippets and tidbits that came out. It's typical straight back Eddie Howe, like Michael Atherton at the crease. So that's probably a positive thing in a good way. Because as we all know, this is a massive game for the club's, well, the team, I should say, season, essentially. I believe it's going to be a very difficult game. You know, it's a European night, it's Champions League football, but they don't travel well. They've got 5 out themselves, both coming off a loss. Well, we've had 2. They scraped a 2-1 against the middle of the table, nobody team in Italy, and they get beat off Atlanta 3-2 in the last minute. So, like George, like you said, that players had a light session today, and I seen what the club put out of like the 8-minute video or whatever. So that's a very, very light session. It was probably just get a ball out, just get a feel for it again, not back on grass. So you can read into that from what you want. Who was there, who wasn't there? They probably all were there in terms of if they're having, you know, rehab inside with physiotherapists and sports science staff doing things inside in the gym. Those who were available or didn't play would have done something a little bit more intense on the grass. So again, read that. Again, you can look at it from a psychological standpoint, from who's out there, who isn't out there. But you know, that's the game that Eddie plays and what we all like to see, and I like to see as well, because it keeps them guessing. But essentially, this game's in our hands. If we can, like we always want to see them play on the front foot, but again, if we play on the front foot and on a just that cold, wet, nasty night in Newcastle, which is, you know, brilliant for us because that's what we're used to. The players are used to that. I think AC Milan could have a deer in headlights moment and like a PSG where we could absolutely smash them, and that's it. And I'll stick with what I said last night. I think we'll go with the young man below me, a 3-1.
Okay, Al-Walid, Champions League. We wanted Champions League. A lot of fans wanted it. We've had a great adventure. Do you think the adventure is going to come to an end tomorrow, or do you think we're going to pull off a miracle and get through?
We have to do what necessary. Let's beat Milan, and we didn't have to wait the other game. We should win this game regardless, PSG and Dortmund, because it's in our field, and we made it this far, and we have opportunity at last chance, so we have to win. It will help. It's the most important game, I think, in 2023 for Newcastle, because if we win, we'll qualify. This will increase our profit from the league. It will help in the financial fair play, and it's going to be massive if you beat and kick out AC Milan. And we hope that it will go in our direction, the other result. So this is what all we have to do. We didn't have much to think about the injuries or who's ready for play, give 100%, and that's it.
Okay, prediction from you, Al-Walid?
We'll expect 2-1 Newcastle, inshallah.
Okay, Mitch, your thoughts on the big game tomorrow?
For me, it's more. It's not in the Premier League, and to take our minds away from that competition and the defeats so far. It's a little bit of a nice reset at the right time. I wouldn't read too much into players not training. There's many players not training every training session at the minute. The players have pretty much said so themselves. So the press don't help themselves by whipping everybody up, starting casting doubt on whether somebody's available or not. Keep positive and stick with it. Eddie's not going to give it away, and that keeps Milan guessing. As Kev rightly says, they've got their own problems at the moment. All we can do is focus on ourselves. I mean, at the minute, I do have a lot of questions, and I've got a lot of things on my mind. Some of which might blurt out tonight, some of which probably will blurt out on Friday, that's for sure. But we need to be sort of as positive as we can. Yes, we've had a couple of bad results in the league. This is a very different competition. We can go out, express ourselves. What we've got to lose? You know, we'll go in there. There's the group of death that will give it absolutely zero chance of getting out of by many so-called well-known pundits and people in the know in football. And here we are in the last round of fixtures with an opportunity to qualify for the next stage of the competition in our own right. And I think that's if that was the minimum that was said, look, let's set this as a bar to clear. I think we'd have all been reasonably happy with that. And here we are, one game away from it. So they're coming to us. Everybody doesn't seem to like coming to St James's Park under the lights midweek. It's our record at home's entirely different to our record away at the moment. We can go out there, have a damn good go, and everybody will be behind them. I'm quite sure the crowd will be up for it tomorrow night. And we'll certainly be up for it at midnight in Dubai, that's for sure. I'm glad I've got Thursday off, I tell you that. So, you know, we've got to go in with a, cling to the positives and keep looking at that. It's served well all season. Why suddenly on the back of 2 bad league results does everybody want to go into a little bit of meltdown?
Prediction from you, Mitch, for tomorrow night's game?
2-0.
2-0. Okay. Stu?
Due to the fact that I visit Mitch on a regular basis in Dubai, I don't have the benefit of having Thursday off, but I'll still be up watching it late on tomorrow night. So I'm looking forward to it. I just want to say, Steve, is not a rallying call, but perspective, I suppose, is what people have to understand is for a generation, we've never had it so good with this football club. On the players on the pitch, we've never had a squad with the talent, the ability, the commitment, the passion, the willingness to fight for each other and to get a result than what we've had. And yeah, they've had a couple of bad results, and there's been excuses, there's been justifiable reasons, etc. But for me, as you know, I'm 50 next year, right? And times change, and maybe without realising I've become old-fashioned. But I think sometimes the fallouts after defeats are ridiculous. And yes, social media wasn't there when we were when we took it with the Keegan era, I suppose, because that was the last time we had any, not even a period of success, but a period of hope. But I swear, just like, remember when you're younger, if you think about the summer holidays, every day was a sunshine day. I'm certain we were less over the top and more rational about a defeat because of the direction the club was going. And in all of this time, we've got a club where we have owners that will, come hell or high water, they will make sure this club succeeds and win things. And we should be more accepting of defeats. And I was speaking with Mitch late on Sunday night after the Tottenham game, and we're both furious, of course. We're furious that we get beat, and, you know, it's very easy to find faults. But I think supporting this club is like having friends, and everyone can be your friend when you're doing well. But when you're not doing well, that's when your true friends shine through. And I think people of our generation are more not accepting of defeat, but more not comfortable either. So I'm choosing my words wrong, but more realistic about defeat and understanding the reasons behind it. And they still get up and support the lads. And I honestly think tomorrow night will be St James's at its horriblest best, and it will scare the pants out of AC Milan. Yeah. And if you look at the players that we have signed, the quality of players we're signing, the Brunos, I know some of them aren't playing, Botmans, Isaacs, etc. All these top quality players, not even just with potential, but we're already top quality players when we signed them. They signed for Newcastle on the hope that we would reach where we are now, to play Champions League football. Remember when Bruno signed him, he said it and he was laughed at. And everyone said he come for the money. He hasn't. He come because he believed in the project, and the project is delivering early. We should be, and I use the word grateful for that, because it will keep delivering. But what I can't get my head around, Steve, is when people say, oh, we should forsake tomorrow and make sure we beat Fulham. So we'll beat Fulham, does that get us qualifying for the league that we're trying, Champions League that we're trying to get out of? This is our chance now. This is our opportunity. And I think tomorrow will be the Players' Cup final, because we're supporters and we'll support them. We've had it Grimsby away, Mansfield away, etc. But these players might not get the chance to play the Champions League again. Not for Newcastle, because some of them will get moved on. Some of them will get replaced, and we may not qualify for it next season. This is their cup final. And this is a game where I think each and every one of them will walk out to all of them and burn. And I genuinely think, all week I've been thinking that we'll win 2-0, but I'm going to go that we'll beat them 4-0. That's what the players signed up for, and I think that'll be the easiest team talk of Eddie Howe's managerial career tomorrow. Right, lads, here's your chance. Go out and prove that you deserve to get the next round. And all they can do is play what's in front of them and beat what's in front of them. And then if PSG on paper shouldn't be doping from the way the group games have went, we get through. And even if we don't, let's not have a fallout of, oh, we should have, we got cheated in PSG. We'll go into the Europa League, and that's what we need. Newcastle's name in European faces into the new year. And I genuinely believe we'll qualify. And I'm not saying this to be over optimistic or positive. I think we will beat AC Milan. I don't think they have a feeling what's coming to them. And I think if Dortmund plays full strength team and we go up early, that scoreline will get through to Dortmund. And PSG, they haven't got the backbone. I think they'll just fold, and we'll go through in second place. So that's my prediction. So I was going to say 2-0, but I got myself excited, so I went for a 4-0 magical night on Tyneside.
Wow. Okay, Jason Clement says, win, lose or draw, our team is playing at the top, not the bottom, and in every competition. Gutted when we lose, but loving it and loving being a Newcastle supporter. Great chat as always. Kev says we had a couple of bad days, a collective brain fart. It happens. He says, I think these lads are going to tear a new one for Milan. Fan needs to be the 12th man, and I'm sure we will. I think it'll be 3-0. And Ian says, I think most would agree we probably overperformed a little last year. I think expectations and a horrific injury list are catching up with that. And Les agrees with Stu, saying, I wholeheartedly agree with Stu. I'm in the 70s, height of hooliganism. I never saw a fight. Bantered with fans and players alike. These days, it seems far more toxic and ugly. And there was another question. There was another point as well from Dean. Says, evening lads, anything but bottom tomorrow. Buzzing if we get out of the group, but third gives us a chance to win the Europa, which will get us Champions League football next season and take pressure off the league. So some great points there from everybody watching. Were you going to say something, Mitch?
Yeah, I mean, on the back of what Stu said in a couple of those comments, I think you've got to remember as well, we're the generation that went to Cambridge and got battered 4-1. We're the generation that saw we lose at places like Southend. And it wasn't pretty and it wasn't nice to watch, and you still went and you still did it. And I think it probably gives us a little bit of leeway to sometimes be a bit more circumspect about certain defeats and certainly not knee-jerk reaction. Yes, we're upset about it. We're never happy to take a defeat. But it's more about trying to work out why and trying to see if there's anything going on within the group that needs sorted out. And okay, that's what the manager's there for, but that's what we want to sort of look at, because I think so many people. I was talking to one of the young'uns, because we get a lot of families in at Brooklyn for the games, and a couple of the kids were really down, and it's like, well, it isn't always rainbows, flowers and unicorns, and you cannot win every game, and try to explain to them what it was like to go to Everton on the opening day of the season and get thumped 4-0 when you would bought these players and we were expecting great things, and then you felt like your season was over after the first bloody game. and it pretty much was, you know, and so it's trying to find balance in everything, and I think there's a lot of balance being lost with some of the reactions that you see within sort of social media and etc.
Steve, just added that when I was speaking with Mitch, of course, every defeat hurts. And whether you get more thick skin to it or not, the fact of the matter is the team we've got, the management we've got, the owners we've got, even the best teams will get beat. The fact that I think we're more resilient to the defeats now is that you know that they have tried and that they are quality and there's a win just around the corner. We've watched teams where you think they're never going to win again. And the words I said to Mitch is, look, even when we're winning everything, we'll still lose games. The fact is, every season, the likelihood is we'll lose less and less each season. So if we're still in a European position, still one game away from a semi-final, one game away from a Champions League last 16, and we've got the Maccans who are in the FA Cup, we've got so much to be not grateful for, so much to look forward to. Yes, there's a lot of politics with the club, but that comes with success, and I'm sure we can talk about that another time on another show. But on the pitch, I honestly think if you go back to the start of the season when we lost to Brighton, and we had a game in Europe after we AC Milan, and a lot of people suggested it might have been the focus was on AC Milan. Maybe this time round it was the same. You know, they're getting through it with what they've got. It was a great boon to the team to see Callum Wilson and Sean Longstaff come back in, and honestly think it'll revitalise everyone, re-energise everyone, and as I've repeated earlier, as I said earlier, this is our cup final. I think we can have these beat by half time tomorrow.
Yeah, and remember when we went to Milan, the so-called pundits criticised Eddie's arrangements. Yeah, we didn't fly in early enough. We didn't train on that pitch. We didn't do all of that, and still it worked for us. So you lads invented the phrase "trust the process," trust in Eddie, and I think that's what we should stick by.
Well said. Just want to send lots of love and best wishes out to Andy's dad, Andy Senior. He's just put a thing in the chat there. He says, "I never do this." He says, "But can I have a big matters, Geordie, get well soon to me dad, Andy Senior, who was in hospital today with heart issues. I hope tomorrow's game doesn't stress him too much. Get well soon, Andrew's dad."
Get well soon.
All the best, mate. Speedy
all the best. Yeah, all the best, mate.
Thanks for all your support, mate, as well over the years. Okay, lots of questions coming in. If you want to ask George, we're not going to do it tonight. George is asked to do an hour-long special of Ask George questions for Christmas. So we're going to sort a date out and we're going to do that. So we're not going to do it tonight. So keep your questions for George and we'll do an hour-long special with George. That's something George has suggested. So I love the idea. So we'll definitely do that. People asking as well about a few inboxes about Christmas. To be honest, the way Christmas falls, I think the Amigos will still be live. I haven't even thought about the other shows. I do know we're going out for the Matters Christmas do on the 27th, so I won't be coming on and doing a live to repeat 16 questions. The series is doing the questions 16 times. There are a few programs set up though, so we can have a few days off. There's a couple of interviews I did at the Surf Cafe this year with Rob Lee and one or two others. So it gives us a few days off. So there will be a few shows, but I think the Amigos will still be live because of the dates it falls on. But I'll have a good look at it and have a bit more a clearer idea next week to let you know. Okay, where do we go next? Barry Hogan says, "What would you rather have, guys? An FA Cup win over the Mac? Now is that an FA Cup win over the Mackhams, Barry? You would have to be, I guess, if you're talking about an FA Cup win." Or a quarter-final knockout in the Champions League. We are struggling and feel something has to give. So, I mean, rather jokingly, George, I have been saying on the show that the quadruple is still on, which theoretically it still is. We're still in all the competitions. Could change tomorrow. But, yeah, I mean, would you rather drop out of the Champions League, I say, or drop out of the FA Cup? I mean, it's, you know, you get some people, George, who go, "I want to win everything." You get some people who say, "Well, theoretically, you'd have to drop." But if you had to drop one, if there was one that you went, "Oh well, we'll be knocked out of that," is the one.
People have heard me say often enough, "I'm a greedy little duck. I want it all," and I've waited a long time for it. Could I tolerate losing? No, I couldn't tolerate losing to the Mackhams. I'm sorry. That's a must win. That's a must win because of the historical damage it would do for forever and ever. Amen. No, that's a must win. And yes, I want to stay in Europe. Well, if it's the Europa side of it, well, it would have to be that. But clearly, I want to win it all. I am a greedy little duck, and been waiting a long time for something like this to happen. I mean, Stu's right about how things have changed. What a change in 2 years. Here we are arguing about an FA Cup win or a European Champions quarter final. When less than 2 years ago, we were staring the championship in the face. So no, I'm still a greedy little duck. I would like to see them both, but must win. Must beat the Mackhams. Must beat the Mackhams.
Don, that's bringing back memories of the question, mate. I'm going to move on quickly. Kev, yeah, I mean, Barry's just saying, would you, if you had to drop out of something, what would you drop out of, mate? I mean, that's the question. Because the fixture list is piling up, and would you rather go out to the Carabao Cup against Chelsea? Would you rather go out the FA Cup against Sunderland? Would you rather go out the Champions League tomorrow night?
I'm like George. Not that I want to win everything. I just want to progress in every competition that we enter. Yes, I would love to beat Sunderland. I played there as a kid. All the rest of it. So there's that attachment from my perspective. Plus, it's our unwashed lot from down the road. The thing with the Champions League is if we get through to the knockout round of the last 16, then we've got to wait until February. So there's a little thing for everybody to ponder on. That we'll have rest, we'll have time, all that sort of stuff. But I would rather drop out the League Cup, beat Sunderland, continue in the Champions League. If my arm was twisted, but that's just me. But I want to be in every competition. That's what you're in the game to do, is to win every competition available, or progress into it, or work, and then play at the highest levels that we can potentially go up against.
Well, I haven't changed my opinion. My opinion has been on here for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and on the breakfast show in the morning, that I'd rather go out to Europe this season, and I'd rather progress in the Carabao Cup, get to the final. And of course, I want to beat the Mackhams. It's unthinkable that we don't. And then make a few sensible transfers, whether they're loans or permanent deals in January, and then get our league form back on track. But that Carabao Cup is the easiest of all cups to win. We've given ourselves a great chance by beating 2 good teams this year. If we can beat a third one, you've got to fancy Newcastle then to win it. And winning a bit of silverware is what I'd like to see. So for me, yeah, I'd rather go out to Europe. I'd rather be out of it. But what will be, will be. Al-Walid, which competition would you, if you had to see Newcastle lose a game and drop out of a competition, which one would you prefer them to go out of?
FA Cup, but not this round, the next round. We can't accept losing to Mackhams after waiting this long to face them, especially after the takeover. We can't really make it a memory like that.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, you get it, and you can't get beat off the Mackhams, Al-Walid. You're right. Mitch?
I think I'll twist the question by not really answering it. I think it's an example of we're reverting to type a little bit and going back to glass half full. We've got to try and put everything in perspective. The players who were injured will slowly come back. That will ease some of the problems. There's no doubt we'll have movement in the January window. Kev's absolutely right. If we do progress in the Champions League to the next round, we've got actually a nice little break from it for a couple of months. Not a break in fixtures because we've still got Carabao Cup and FA Cup coming, but it takes a little bit of the pressure off. So I think, I don't think we have to accept saying, well, do we have to drop out of something? No, I'm not going to accept that. I won't accept that. And I don't think that would be a mentality I would be happy with the players have. I totally get the question, and I'm not criticising the question being asked, by the way. But my mentality would be we want to progress through every game as far as possible, through every competition as far as possible. And if it meant giving something up to not lose to that lot down the road. Yeah, I get everybody's thoughts on that because I'd like to see us smash them, to be fair.
Okay, Stu?
Similar to what Mitch has just said, it's a question that the answer should be obvious. We don't want to lose either of them, but I understand what Barry's asking just to get the feedback. And for me, a fan's point of view would be we win the FA Cup and we don't, because if we progress, we've got more chance of winning, irrespective of who we play in that competition in the next round. Trying not to say the name. But if it was the owners, they would prefer us to progress, and that's the difference. You've got a fan's point of view and a financial point of view. But I think we'll do both, and I reckon Eddie Howe will be savvy enough to play as many home-based players as he can. You know, your Dubbits, the Andersons, if they're fit, get Murphy in, Miley in, and he can rest people like Bruno, Trippier, rest Isaac, get Wilson because he doesn't mind a bit of rough and tumble, and just put Joe Linton in the middle to marshal it all in case there's anything kicking off. There's a story about him as well, which we'll cover that later on. And I think we'll beat Sunderland comfortably with our reserve team once they've blown out like their crisp packets around their ground. We'll see them off easily. So I just want us to go through the next round of the Champions League because long term for the club it's better. Now, had we been playing anyone but Sunderland, the answer would be the Champions League, I would imagine, because I think the FA Cup will be clutched by Newcastle captain in the next 5 years. But maybe the Champions League won't. So I want us to progress as much as we can, which helps with the financial fair play issue. That's the logical answer, but the emotional answer is clearly, and Ellie swore there, beat the Mackhams.
Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks again to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you'd like to order some, then give them a call on 01768 210 102. Go to the website, mrvickys.co.uk, or drop them an email, info@mrvickys.co.uk. A big thanks to United Group Travel. They're a family firm based in Morpeth with pickups throughout the Northeast. No strangers on our tours, just people you haven't met yet. They've got a presence on Facebook and a website, unitedgrouptravel.com. If you want to make a booking, give them a call on 01670 632 460 or mobiles 0791 666 4174 0795 71 41654. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. Let us look after you in your time of need. They're based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead, and you can contact them at their website, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Email darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or give them a call, 0191 478 2730. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And a big thanks to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. If you want to help the channel, hit the thumb up to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and share to your other social media. You can also pay a one-off fee of £25 to get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. Go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or put your smartphone over this QR code. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make some donations virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. We're also a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. Just search NUFC Matters. I'm also a part of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. You can listen to that Monday to Friday, 7 till 9 at thetooneuk.com. We've also got an event coming up next year. It's in January the 19th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. It's an evening with Nobby Solano. Tickets are available on voucher for £20. Don't forget, Supermac and Gibbo do every pre-match at Louis Liquor Store. It's free entry, children welcome, and there is great food by Fed's Fried Chicken. They're usually on pre-match and sometimes post-match at Louis Liquor Store. Okay, welcome back to nufc Matters. Geordie's here. Geordie's there. And Yano says, I can't believe I'm getting adverts for hair colour when I'm watching a podcast hosted by the home of the follically challenged. Good old YouTube. And Yano says he likes a pink minge. I'm not quite sure what he means about that. I don't know. Ian says it's Welsh for wig. Don't worry. Thank you for putting that right.
Blame Don Allen for what he did to me in that flyer. That's, I think, he made me referred to that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Okay, Billy says, what's your thoughts, George, on Shearer saying he doesn't believe our players are tired?
Well, it's a debate we've had on here in different platforms about this notion of tiredness. Then can he explain why he played like a hero most of the season and was absolute crap at Wembley in the cup final? Was he not tired? Was that part of his problem? Was I really, there's a place you get to if you're winning all the time. Yes, the adrenaline takes the tiredness off you. But when you got into a run that we've got into, and doing their best, doing their darndest, you have to accept that that's what they're doing, and it isn't coming off. Then the tiredness grips. The adrenaline doesn't clear the lactic out of the muscles the way it does when you're high, and that's what the tiredness is, I'm afraid. So, Alan, I don't disagree with you very much, but on that one I do, because I've seen some tired performances from people who were in the so-called good team. What did we call them? The entertainers. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. I've seen some tired performances from the entertainers. So no, I can't. As I say, I don't disagree with Alan very often, but on that one I do. There's a stage you reach where not just your body but your mind's had enough of anything, and I think that's where we're at now, and that's the Geordies' job to pick them up.
Andy Davies says Shearer's just repeating what Eddie Howe has stated. It's mental fatigue, says Kev. Ian just says Shearer's wrong. The club has never used that excuse. The media started the narrative, but I think it is mental tiredness. But Big Al didn't play at the pace and intensity as we do now, but I would love to have seen him press high, says Jonathan Byrne. Kev, Shearer says the lads aren't tired.
I partially agree. The pro footballers, this is what they get paid to do. However, the way that we played from the last comment, the other Kev, saying, the high press and all the rest of it, yes, that does take a physical toll and a mental toll. You can look in recovery patterns, you can look into how that's being done, hence why injuries, but that's a sports science thing, then I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole of getting into sports science and lactate and the acid within the muscle belly, how you get that out there quicker than from your recovery periods and what you do in periodization and all that nonsense. But, I think, like I said last night, I think it's just a general frustration of how we're not playing, especially in the last two games, even maybe in the Chelsea game, and you could look at it tactically, you could look at it from a player demand, because that's what Eddie Howe requires every game. He wants every player to empty themselves. Well, I don't think they've got much left to empty, to be honest, because they've got to rejuvenate themselves every game of how we want to play with the same team over and over again. Understand where Shearer's coming from. I totally do. But again, I agree with George. If you're in a winning side, that it becomes a lot easier when you play against a very physical Everton side who just, like I said last night, just go long ball, win first, second, very physical. That takes its toll in a different way. But then you come against a Tottenham side who are just ambush you from minute one to the end, and you get beat 4. That's a different physical toll. based on each team and how they play. So I can say from both sides, it's just we just haven't got the luxury and the availability of rotation and movement of players and substitutions and things like that. But yeah, it's one of those ones we have to get through this period, and this is what Eddie Howe and his staff have to do is regalvanize and find a different way to play, how to win. So all those little caveats come into play, in my opinion. But yeah, tired, but it's more of a mental thing. It's more of a mental fatigue, and you pick up these little microfibril tears, and then they become bigger injuries if you don't get the recovery right. So again, it all rolled into one becomes a big, massive problem. But it's depicting it and putting it right, which is what Eddie Howe gets paid to do, and his staff to move the players forward and get them back on the pitch firing on all cylinders. That's the nature of the beast. And this is what players want. And this is playing in Champions League, playing in FA Cups, playing in the Premier League. This is what they ultimately signed for, or signed up for, I should say. So I can say from both sides. But fully tired, yeah, maybe not. But there's something not right within, again, the periodization and how we recover from after games, in my opinion. I don't know what that is. I'm not behind the scenes, but I think that needs to be looked at in a bit more detail in how they're doing it.
Okay, Alan Shearer says the players aren't tired, but the last two results, I would say, have certainly showed, that we are struggling, obviously, with injuries, but tiredness can play its part as well, I'm sure. What do you think, Al-Walid?
Okay, if they are not tired, they are exhausted. I think many factors, many things play a role. Maybe the social media, the pressure that wasn't there before this much now. Before was just a newspaper and some shows, but now everywhere, everyone can reach his or write something. And also, I think it's the level. 2 years ago, or less than 2 years, we were just stay for a long time. Just the goal is not to be relegated. I'm happy that I'm saying a long time I didn't say relegated. So that was our goal. Now I forget the word. Now we are compete in all competitions. This is a new stage for Newcastle. So I think it's a little bit of this and that. Yeah.
Okay, Mitch, tiredness. What's your thoughts? Shearer says it's a myth. It's in the head. Eddie Howe hasn't used the the excuse neither.
I think what we're looking at is more mental fatigue than physical. And I think if you want to look at anybody for that, look at Trippier, who owes with nothing. He's put so much in his time at the club, and he's had two pretty bad games on the bounce. And I don't think that's not a coincidence that he's had two bad games on the bounce where he's made mistakes he doesn't normally make. And he looks tired, I think coming into, but if you've got people constantly telling you you're tired, you're going to feel tired.
Yeah.
And I think that's not what is meant to do. And that's not what's what Howe wants done. And it might explain why, for example, people are asking why Hall hasn't had any minutes off the bench, because he doesn't. It's not about giving people minutes here or minutes there. It's more he obviously wants to keep them for a reason. It's one of my questions at the minute. I can't understand why he's not had more time on the pitch, but there will be a reason, and we've got to roll with it. Yes, it's easier to play many games on the bounce when you're winning all of them and you're in a run. And at the minute, they're probably not training, really. They're coming in to do recovery. there's not really much proper training going on. I don't know whether Kev would agree on that one, but probably most of what they're doing on the training pitch is not what you would think of as classical training. It's recovery.
Absolutely. Just jumping in, it'll be like little rondos, little keep away, ball possession, get back in, done. Essentially. And then
and the only saving grace is we're not chucking them in paddling pools and wheelie bins. Now we've got some, proper things to help with that recovery. But that's the reality. But as Dan Byrne, I don't know if anybody saw his interview with 5 Live, tail end of last week, I think it was, came across very well, and he's saying, look, we're doing all this, we play Saturday, in for recovery, fly to here, little bit of training, play a game, fly back, in for recovery, play at the weekend. It's non-stop, it's relentless. And he was talking about the mental side of it. Very, very clearly, not so much the physical. But then he stopped in the middle of his sentence and said, well, hang on a minute, it sounds like I'm complaining. This is what we want. This is what we all wanted.
Yeah.
And I think he's speaking for the entire squad there. And so I don't think they would have you turn around. If you went up to them and said, oh, you're tired, I don't think they'd have you say that to them either. We just don't have the options to make alterations and to give some people that mental window to relax because of the horrendous injuries.
Interesting, that interview, wasn't it, with Dan Byrne? He did mention that he felt like he played a lot more games after only a short period of games because of the transition.
He said that when they got the first international break, he felt like he played half a season.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is interesting. That was an interesting comment to take from
it. Was a good interview. Neil's right. It was a good interview.
Was, yeah. You can get that on YouTube, folks. Okay, Stu, thoughts on Shearer? I saw you quite animated when I mentioned this is a topic from the question. You were...
Yeah, it's something because on, what day was it? Sunday night on the Matters group, everyone was having their say. And you've all got the WhatsApp there. I said, if someone keeps telling you you're tired, eventually you'll start feeling tired. And then strangely, Alan Shearer said the same. Now, he's not in the Matters group, so it is coincidental. Well, I don't think he's in the Matters WhatsApp group, but it is coincidental. But I think from his perspective, he is coming from the standpoint where something similar happened to him regarding Ruud Gullit, when he kept pushing him down. And he started believing he wasn't as good as he was. And then Sir Bobby Robson come in and told him he was the best striker in the world or best striker in Europe, and he was going to build a team around him. And we all know he scored 5 on his debut. But I see both sides of the debate, Steve. There isn't a right answer. And that's the thing, because can you be tired playing 3 games of football a week? You shouldn't be. But the question I was going to ask Kevin Mitch has something similar was, from his coaching angle, the way Newcastle play is high intensity, and because they've got limited numbers, it's the injuries that are killing them, not the players available, because they're having to save themselves, because they know that there's another game coming in short space of time. So they're trying to preserve energy, and if you take the high intensity out of Newcastle, then it takes a lot out of what helps us achieve what we've achieved so far under Eddie Howe. And hopefully, and I'm quite sure a lot of the viewers have watched or know about the 1%. That 1% makes a massive difference between winning and not winning. And if we drop our standards, our pressure, our push, our press, just by that little bit, that creates one little chink in our defensive mechanism, which then allows the other teams to get forward. And one thing that's never been discussed as much, and this to me, and again, it's my personal opinion, has contributed to the injuries that we've got. Yes, we're playing high intensity, but with this VAR and now 5 minutes added on in the first half, 10 minutes in the second half, that creates more injury opportunity. And when you stop-start, and if you look at a lot of the injuries, the hamstrings or muscle injuries, yes, we have the freak injuries like the shoulder injury that Nick Pope got, etc. But I think a lot of this is caused by people trying to be too perfect. and make the game perfect. You know, we love the game as it was. We love the team as it is. And I think somewhere along the line, there has to be some sort of leveling off where you can't have players, especially in the winter, standing there cold, waiting for 2 or 3 minutes for someone to decide something. If it's clear and obvious, it's still not clear and obvious. And I know I'm transcending the question, Steve, but for me, are they mentally exhausted? Have they got the minds on the next game? Are they too conscious that we know we've got injuries and we haven't got the replacements to come on? Because when we've been successful, they've used the substitutes well. They've brought 2 or 3 on after 60 minutes and another couple after 80 minutes to see the game out, whichever, or to get back in the game, whichever way the result was going at the time. We haven't had that luxury. And because they've been to the bare bones, I suspect the 11 that have been chosen, and God bless them, they have given their all. And sometimes the role's not good enough, but I go to work and I give my best every day, and sometimes it's not good enough. And sometimes it looks like I've done nothing. Sometimes it looks like, well, it shouldn't look like I'm not trying. But my performance isn't as I want it to be, as my boss wants it to be. But that doesn't mean I'm not trying. But football, as I've said many times, in sport is emotional. And I'm grateful that we've got this squad. I'm grateful that we've got this togetherness with the squad. And I'm delighted that we've got players coming back, which gives Eddie Howe the options to show what a good manager he is. So Shearer's comments, I can understand why he said it. Doesn't mean he's wrong to say it, because that's his opinion. And I think his opinion on professional football should be valued more than mine. But so I totally agree why he said it, but I can see the debate against why he hasn't. You shouldn't be tired, but just taking that little edge off does make a massive difference at the top end of football. And thank God we are now talking about Newcastle United at the top end of football. So that's where I am, and I think we'll get players back. There's a little break in January. A lot of players will be rested against Sunderland, but enough, as I said, hopefully local lads will get the opportunity to flex their muscles and play in a derby that neither their fans on or our fans would have thought would be playing, probably for another generation, the way the two teams are heading. And that'll give people more rest. But I think tomorrow night, as I said earlier, that we will show what we are about. And when we beat Man United, that was the most comprehensive 1-0 win you'll ever see. When we flashed Chelsea 4-1, that was on the back of the PSG game where they left everything and we were cheated. And I think it was Kev that said that we've never said, Eddie Howe's never said, we're tired with this. It's the press, because they do every little dark art. They talk about us. They do every little dark art they can to try and suppress the rise of Newcastle United. And that's why Eddie Howe would mention it. And he's been a gentleman. He's been someone that we should all aspire to be out of work. And I'm just grateful that he's our manager. And we've got the opportunity tomorrow to cheer our team home to the last 16 of the Champions League. So, yes, Alan Shearer, you're right. They shouldn't use Tyne as an excuse, but that doesn't mean it's not a reason. That's my take on it.
Okay, well, it's all about opinions. Lots of opinions in the chat as well. Al-Walid, you wanted to say something?
I'm trying to thinking about it. Maybe Shearer saying this for motivation. Of course, he will not say that they are tired. Yes, you are tired. No, this is just for motivation. But if we want to prove that he is the player tired, we noticed after any international stop, we become better. So I believe this is for because they get some resting. That's it.
Okay, Kev?
Yeah, just to jump on what Stu was saying, and from a coaching level, from players at in a youth level, I think there's a fearfulness to go and execute a game plan, i.e. the high press. You've seen that in recent games, especially when we've lost. It hasn't been there because of that fearful. I think there's a fearful nature of, if I do this and I exert myself, what's the repercussions going to be like? What's the am I going to get a pick up and knock? You don't see Joe Linton bullying people in midfield. You don't see Isaac, who's on his last legs, pretty much not pressing. You don't see Miggy tracking runners. You don't see they're not doing their job ultimately. And I agree with the point of stoppages within games, because body potentially cools down, then you got to get back up, then you have to elevate that again, then you got to go again. It's like a stop-start, and it's very frustrating. That's what the word I used was, more frustration than anything, because it's a stop-start now. And so I think this is a bit of a fearful nature creeping in. I say to players all the time, you can't play with fear. You've got to go and you've got to play with positivity. You've got to have the positive mindset. But I think the fearful nature of, oh, if I do this, am I going to get done? Am I going to get injured? I mean, the Callum Wilson challenge on Sunday, against Tottenham was, he full-hearted challenge, but at the same time, that could have put him out for another 6-7 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was. So I think there's just a little reluctancy to go and press and be what we've been doing. So therefore, tactically, I think we've just dropped into a 4-5-1 and see what we can get and play on the counter-attacks, to be perfectly honest. And again, it's just fear. So if we play without fear, we'll batter anybody.
Some great points tonight, lads. Well made. Come towards the end of the show. Tomorrow, I'm putting up the interview that Nobby Solano did in Bulgaria at the weekend. So you'll be able to watch that tomorrow from 4 o'clock. Thursday, 6 o'clock, Supermac and Gibbo live. Friday, 5 o'clock, live, the Amigos. Saturday, to be confirmed, probably Melly Barnes and me, and that'll be a pre-record. And then live again Sunday night, me and the lads, 6 o'clock with the professionals. I'll let you
Steve,
get off.
one thing before you finish.
Yeah, go on. Okay.
Just because I started, I didn't talk about it, the abuse that Kieran Trippier has got. To me, he's been the best right back that we've had in my lifetime, and I think George extend that into his lifetime as well. Yeah. The guy is so committed to this club, dedicated, devoted. He's a leader, but more importantly, he's immensely talented. So he's had a couple of off days, but what we should remember is we're lucky to have him, and he knits that group. And the thing he's probably most guilty of, George, is trying too hard.
Yeah, he's the best right back in the world at the moment. And you're right. I've never seen a full back like that. Come on, an international manager with a visiting team in a European Cup targets our right back for special marking. Not a centre forward or a midfielder, a right back, because that's what the Germans did. That's how they nullified him. And I find all this stuff. The how out and all that sort of thing and abuse. They want to remember where we were when he came as well. You could easily have said, what do I need to come to you for? Yeah.
Trippier has had more assists this season and all this, what we're just into December, than any season Alan St-Maximin had. There you go, and he's a right back.
He's got more assists than most of the midfielders in the bloody Premiership.
That's the generational difference. Yeah. That's the generation. Someone who's on the pitch to create assists, a right back has created more in half a season than he ever did in any full season. So I'll leave that before the rubbish comes in, Steve.
Breaking news, the government have actually won a vote. They won the Rwandan vote with a majority of 44. So there we go. Let's hope that doesn't extend to Sunderland winning tonight against Leeds and completely ruining people's nights. But that is the end of NUFC Matters tonight. As I say, back with Nobby Solano tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Thanks again, lads. Take care.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks, lads. Thanks, everyone.